This is the Release and Realization podcast, where we explore emotional freedom and practical manifestation based on the teachings of Lester Levinson and Neville Goddard to help you unlock your inner power and create the life you want. Welcome. In today's episode, David and Anna talk about true responsibility and the point where real freedom begins in manifestation.
There is this word that we throw around constantly, and it almost universally makes people flinch.
Oh, yeah. Like an actual physical reaction.
Right. The moment you hear it, it feels like, I don't know, like someone just dropped a 60-pound backpack full of wet sand right onto your shoulders.
Wet sand? That's exactly what it feels like, just incredibly heavy.
And that word is responsibility.
It immediately triggers this defensive reflex in people.
Completely, because usually when someone looks at you and tells you that you need to, take responsibility, it sounds like a scolding.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Exactly. It feels like you're being handed a mop and a bucket to clean up some massive mess in aisle 4 that you didn't even make.
Right. Like you're the one left holding the bag.
Yes. We associate it with fault, with burden, with being the scapegoat. But what if we have that entirely backward?
And that's the big question here.
Right, because what if taking responsibility is actually the only mechanical way to unlock total unadulterated freedom?
It's a huge shift in perspective.
It really is. So today, we are basically taking a sledgehammer to everything you thought you knew about control, manifestation, and, personal power.
Which is so needed right now.
Yeah, we're doing a deep dive into this really fascinating source material that completely redefines responsibility. It takes it out of the courtroom, takes it off your chore list, and looks at it as a pure operational access point.
And what's so compelling about this text is how aggressively it dismantles our default human operating system.
Like right out of the gate.
Exactly, right out of the gate. It sets up this core conflict, drawing a very hard, non-negotiable line between two things that modern culture constantly confuses.
And what are those?
The desperate desire to control your life versus the actual act of taking responsibility for it.
Those sound similar to a lot of people, I think.
They do, but they are opposites. And we need to establish right up front that the author grounds this entirely in a physical, present-oriented state of consciousness.
So it's not just like a fun, abstract, philosophical thought experiment?
No, not at all. It's about how you literally exist in your nervous system in this exact second.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of that. Because to understand this liberating definition of freedom, we kind of have to look at the cage we're currently sitting in.
The cage of control.
Right, our absolute obsession with control. The author makes this point that a lot of people interpret manifestation or, conscious creation as just a fancy spiritualized synonym for micromanagement.
Oh, totally. The universe as your personal assistant.
Yeah. The idea that to be a powerful person, you have to manage, predict, and direct every single variable and outcome in your entire life.
Which is, frankly, a recipe for absolute burnout.
Oh, 100%.
If you look at the psychological root of the need for control, it's never born from confidence.
Never.
Never. It is always, without exception, born from a state of fear. That's the baseline argument the author makes here.
Wow. Okay.
If you are trying to exert control over an outcome or a person or a situation, you are operating from fear. Responsibility, on the other hand, arises from what the text calls a state of source.
But wait, let me challenge that for a second, because control feels good. Or at least, it feels safe.
It creates the illusion of safety, sure.
Right, like if I'm managing a massive project at work or I'm trying to navigate some tricky family dynamic over the holidays, trying to control the variables feels like the responsible thing to do. So how is that inherently rooted in fear?
Because of the underlying assumption that's required to actually need that control in the first place.
Okay, unpack that.
The source material highlights this semantic difference that reveals everything. It points out that the internal mantra of control is, I have to fix this.
I have to fix this. Yeah, I say that to myself 10 times a day.
Right. Let's break down what that implies. If your default setting, as you walk into that family dynamic or that board meeting, is, I have to fix this, you are inherently framing your present reality as broken.
Oh.
You are operating from the assumption that there is an active external threat, like there's an error in the system, and you must exert force to neutralize it before it harms you.
So that defensive posture is the fear.
Exactly. That is a defensive, fear-based posture.
Ah, okay, I see that now. Because the mantra of responsibility, as the author lays it out, is completely different. It's simply, the cause is within me.
Yes. I have to fix this external thing versus the cause is within me.
It seems like such a subtle shift in phrasing.
It does, but operationally, it changes your entire relationship with reality.
Let's ground this because state of consciousness can get a little floaty if we aren't careful.
Definitely. We need an anchor for this.
Let's use an analogy. Say you're driving a car in a massive, blinding blizzard.
Okay, stressful.
Very stressful. The snow is coming down in sheets. The roads are pure ice. Control, in this scenario, is white-knuckling the steering wheel.
Right, your shoulders are up by your ears.
Yes. You are terrified of the ice. Your jaw is locked. You're staring at every snowdrift like it's a literal physical enemy coming to kill you.
You're trying to fight the weather.
Exactly. And you are constantly, frantically overcorrecting the wheel because you are trying to force the car to stay safe. That's the fear state. That's, I have to fix the blizzard.
Which is insane because you are projecting your focus entirely outward onto a circumstance you cannot possibly manipulate. You can't fix the snow.
You literally can't.
No.
So in that scenario, is responsibility simply understanding how your tires are interacting with the road?
Yes, that's it.
Like recognizing your own momentum, maybe relaxing that death grip, and driving from a place of connection to your own vehicle rather than just, terror of the weather.
That's it precisely. When you are white-knuckling the wheel, that tension isn't actually helping you drive better. It's just exhausting you.
Yeah, you're burning so much energy.
Right. And if we pull this out of the blizzard and look at a normal Tuesday for the person listening right now.
Let's do it.
How often do you hit 5 p.m. and feel completely, inexplicably drained? Like your bones are tired.
All the time.
And it's likely because you spent the last 8 hours trying to micromanage your reality.
Oh, yeah.
We're trying to control how your boss perceived your email, how your partner interpreted your text message, how the economy is going to impact your retirement fund.
You are constantly overcorrecting the wheel on the ice.
Yes. And you are probably completely unaware that this monumental, exhausting effort is just a survival mechanism stuck in overdrive.
You're trying to fix the blizzard?
You're trying to fix the blizzard.
Yeah.
And the source text is basically inviting us to drop that exhausting delusion.
So you shift into responsibility.
Right. The cause is within me.
Huh.
You bring your focus back inside the vehicle. You bring it back to your own state of consciousness.
Which brings up something really fascinating, actually, because this difference between the fear-based control state and the source-based responsibility state, it isn't just a mental game.
No, not at all.
It's not just a cute reframing exercise you do in a journal. The author gets highly specific about the biological reality of this. Our physical bodies register this difference in profound, measurable ways.
This is where the concepts leave the realm of philosophy and enter pure physiology.
Yeah, the physical checklist.
Exactly. The text provides a literal checklist of what happens to our biology when we exist in that control state, when we are projecting blame onto external causes.
What does that look like?
Well, when you tell yourself, the problem is out there and I must defend against it, the body actually contracts.
Like physically shrinks.
Yes. The chest cavity tightens, the breath becomes noticeably shallower, shifting from the deep diaphragm up into the upper chest.
That anxious breathing.
Right. And the shoulders physically fall forward and round inward. The author defines this specific physical posture as a defensive state of consciousness.
It's the turtle retreating into its shell.
That is a perfect visual.
Just picture someone who is deeply, chronically stressed. They're blaming corporate, they're blaming their ex, they're blaming the traffic on the way to work.
They look like they're bracing for a punch.
Yes. Their shoulders are practically touching their earlobes. They're hunched over their keyboard, literally protecting their vital organs. It's a biological bracing for impact.
And from an evolutionary standpoint, it makes perfect sense.
How so?
By blaming the outside world, by operating from that, I have to fix this external threat mentality, you are signaling to your autonomic nervous system that you are under active attack.
Right. The brain doesn't know the difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, it doesn't know the difference between a hungry predator outside your cave and a passive-aggressive Slack message from a coworker.
That is so wild to think about.
It just receives the signal.
Yeah.
Threat detected. So it creates this tight, closed-off, contracted posture to armor you.
But the contrast here is what I found so relieving when I read this. The text states that when you recognize the inner cause, when you genuinely shift into that state of responsibility, the body naturally expands.
Yes, the integrating state of consciousness.
Right. And here is the crucial nuance that I really think we need to highlight. It explicitly notes that when your body expands and relaxes, it is not because you suddenly decided to put on a brave face.
No, it's not faking it.
It's not forced positivity.
A forced positivity is just another layer of the control state.
Yes, thank you. I'm so tired of the good vibes only, toxic positivity culture.
It's exhausting in its own way.
It really is. Like standing in front of a mirror and chanting, everything is awesome, I love this blizzard, I'm a magnet for success, while your heart is pounding out of your chest with anxiety. That's just white knuckling with a smile.
Exactly. It's still fighting reality.
The expansion the author is talking about doesn't come from a forced good mood. It comes from the cessation of the defense.
That's a brilliant way to put it.
Yeah.
It's the absence of the armor. If we extrapolate on what this return to the source actually means physically, it suggests that our natural default biological baseline is actually one of openness and integration.
We don't have to try to be open.
No, we don't have to exert effort to be open. We only have to stop the active, exhausting exertion of contracting.
Wow.
When you claim responsibility, when you truly internalize, the cause is within my current state of consciousness, the perceived external threat evaporates.
Because you're no longer looking out there for the problem.
Right. There is no predator, there is no enemy out there to defend against, and because the threat is gone, the vagus nerve signals the parasympathetic nervous system to take over.
The rest and digest mode.
Exactly. The chest opens, the shoulders drop.
Yeah.
You haven't hyped yourself up into feeling good. You've just stopped fighting a phantom war.
Okay, but I need to stop you there.
Okay, what's up?
Because if I'm listening to this right now and I hear the causes within you, and my immediate reality is that I just got laid off, or, I'm dealing with a chronic illness, or my relationship just completely imploded.
Heavy stuff. Yeah.
Really heavy. If I tell myself the cause is within me in those moments, my immediate logical leap is, well, then I am the problem. This is my fault. I ruined everything.
The guilt trip.
Right. If we aren't blaming the outside world, the natural human reflex is to turn the gun on ourselves. So does taking responsibility mean I just have to sit around victim blaming myself for everything bad that happens?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is the exact trap the author anticipates.
Oh, they saw this coming.
Absolutely. The text basically puts up a giant flashing neon warning sign right here. Do not confuse inner cause with self-blame.
Okay, so they are different.
They are fundamentally different mechanisms. The text stresses unequivocally that true responsibility is not a moral failing. It is not self-criticism. It is not deciding you are a bad person who deserves bad things.
So how does the author differentiate them? Because honestly, they sound awfully similar if you aren't paying really close attention.
It comes down to our relationship with time.
Time. Okay, explain that.
The author defines self-blame very specifically as a past-oriented state of consciousness.
Past-oriented.
Right. It is looking backward in time, relying on linear logic. Self-blame is saying, I made a bad decision 3 years ago, I am inherently flawed, and therefore I am suffering right now.
And physically, how does that feel?
Physically, that feels just as heavy, closed, and contracted as blaming the blizzard.
Yeah.
You're still in defense mode, you're just defending against your past self.
Oof. Yeah, that makes sense.
Responsibility, by stark contrast, is defined in the source as a present-oriented state. It is completely divorced from the past. It creates, in the author's words, room to move.
Room to move. I really like that phrase. But mechanically, how does acknowledging the inner cause not equal linear blame?
Because true responsibility isn't about claiming you caused a past event through some moral failure. It's recognizing that your current experience of reality arises from your current state of consciousness.
So it's about the lens.
Exactly. You aren't taking the blame for the past. You are observing the lens through which you are viewing the present. If you are stuck in, I made a mistake, you are paralyzing yourselves.
Because you can't change it.
Right. You have stripped yourself of all agency in the present moment because you cannot travel back in time to fix it.
Let's use an analogy here to separate the two, because I feel like this is the pivot point for the whole philosophy.
Let's do it.
Imagine you're a software developer, right? And you're debugging a massive computer program.
Okay.
Self-blame is sitting there staring at the broken code, crying about the typo you made yesterday, calling yourself a terrible programmer, agonizing over the fact that you hit the wrong key at 2:00 p.m. on Tuesday.
Right. It's heavily emotional, it's past-oriented, and most importantly, it accomplishes absolutely nothing. The code is still broken.
Exactly. The code is still broken. Responsibility is entirely different. Responsibility is just looking at the screen today, in this exact second, finding the typo and hitting backspace. There is no moral weight to the typo. It doesn't mean you are an evil person. It's just a line of code that is producing an undesired result.
Just an error to correct.
And the author explicitly says this. When you state, I am the inner cause, you are not taking on a burden of guilt. You are gaining access to the code.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. You cannot change a typo if you are busy weeping over the fact that you made it.
No, you can't see the screen through the tears.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you certainly can't change it if you are yelling at the computer monitor, blaming the machine for displaying it. You have to sit at the keyboard. You have to have access.
Right.
The source material is ruthless about this logic. You can only shift where the cause actually is.
Wow. You can only shift where the cause actually is.
If you locate the cause in the past, or if you locate the cause in another person, you have structurally locked yourself out of your own life. You have no access.
I want you, the person listening right now, to just run a quick diagnostic on yourself. Think of a persistent problem you are currently facing. A money issue, a relationship friction, a career stall.
Everyone's got one.
Right. First, try wearing the feeling of self-blame. This is my fault. I messed up. I am broken. Notice how that feels physically.
Maybe.
It feels like someone poured cement into your shoes.
Yeah.
Now, try the feeling of pure responsibility as we're defining it today. The cause is within my current state of consciousness. I have access to the code.
Such a difference.
Notice the difference. One is a prison sentence. The other is a steering wheel. It actually creates room to move.
And once you feel that room to move, it naturally forces the next question, what do we actually do with this access?
Yes.
As we drop the heavy, past-oriented self-blame, how do we actually steer the car?
Which brings us to perhaps the most radical part of this entire deep dive. The author brings in a heavyweight concept here, citing Neville Goddard.
Ah, yes. Goddard.
For those who might not know, Goddard was a mid-20th century mystic and author who wrote extensively about the power of imagination and consciousness.
Very influential thinker in this space.
Very, and the quote used in the text is foundational to his work. The secret of creation is that the cause lies in consciousness, not in circumstances.
It's a complete inversion of how society operates.
It really is.
The text explains that when you truly internalize this inner cause, your consciousness becomes movable.
Movable.
Yes, you are no longer fixed. And it identifies this specific realization, this mobility, as the actual genesis of personal freedom.
But that requires us to completely redefine what freedom even is.
How so?
Because normally, if you ask someone what freedom looks like, they'll describe a destination. Like, freedom is when I finally pay off the mortgage. Freedom is when I get the promotion. Freedom is when my partner stops doing that one annoying thing.
Right, the external shift.
Exactly. We think freedom arrives when every external circumstance perfectly aligns to our liking.
Yes, the I'll be happy when syndrome.
Yeah.
But the text shatters that illusion completely. It argues that freedom does not appear when circumstances become ideal. Freedom appears the precise moment we recognize that circumstances are merely consequences.
Circumstances are consequences. I need us to just sit with that for a second. The outside world is the echo, not the voice.
If the cause lies strictly in consciousness, then everything happening around you, your bank balance, your social dynamics, your career trajectory, they are just the trailing effects.
The symptoms.
They are the symptoms, not the disease. They are the shadows cast on the wall by the object, but we spend our whole lives trying to manipulate the shadows.
There is an analogy in the text that illustrates this so beautifully, and it honestly changed how I view my own frustrations.
The door analogy.
The locked door analogy. The author writes that stepping into this realization is like realizing that there is a key for the lock. You are no longer angry at the door. You simply use the key.
It's so profound.
When I read that, I physically exhaled, because think about how we usually operate. We spend our time, our energy, our literal life force just kicking the door.
Hoping it breaks down.
Right. We yell at our circumstances. We get furious at the locked door for being locked. We blame the wood. We blame the hinges.
It highlights the sheer absurdity of human behavior. Kicking the door is the ultimate expression of the fear state.
Because we think we don't have the key.
Exactly. It's trying to force external circumstances to yield without ever shifting the internal state. It's exhausting, it breaks your toes, and the door remains locked.
But the author introduces a new navigational tool here to help us stop kicking.
The inner compass.
Right, the inner compass. So how does this inner compass actually work in practice? Like, if I'm standing in front of a locked door, a problem in my life, how do I use it?
The compass completely reverses your line of questioning. The old way, the door-kicking way, has us constantly asking a very specific, frantic question. What should I do to change this?
I ask myself that constantly.
We all do. Notice the focus there, though. It is entirely focused on external action, on manipulating the consequence. But the inner compass directs us to drop that and ask, which state of consciousness is the cause?
Wow. So instead of what do I do, it's who am I being right now? Or what state am I occupying that is casting this specific shadow?
Exactly. Let's apply this. Say you are desperately trying to force a relationship to work.
Okay.
You are analyzing their texts. You are contorting your behavior to be more appealing. You are trying to do all the right things to fix the circumstance.
You are kicking the door.
You are kicking the door. The inner compass stops you and asks, what state of consciousness is driving this? And if you are honest, you might realize your state is pure desperation, fear of abandonment, and unworthiness.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And according to the logic of the text, a state of unworthiness can only ever produce the consequence, the circumstance of being unvalued.
Precisely.
It doesn't matter what actions you take, the echo will always match the voice.
The text notes that when you activate this compass, a profound shift happens. The search decreases and recognition increases.
You stop looking out the window for the answer.
Right. You stop frantically searching for the right words to text back or the perfect strategy to manipulate the situation. You turn around, look in the mirror, and simply recognize the state.
You just see it.
You see the fear, you see the defensive posture, and in that simple, non-judgmental recognition, you have found the key.
Which transitions us perfectly into how we are supposed to actually move through the world once we have the key in our hand.
The operational baseline.
Right. Because if we are no longer frantic, if we are no longer kicking doors and trying to force external change, what does our behavior actually look like? The text calls this new operational baseline authentic functioning.
And what's brilliant about the author's approach here is that they define authentic functioning entirely by what it is not.
Which is a huge relief.
It really is, because usually when we hear authentic, we think of it as another standard to live up to, another performance.
Right, like I have to curate my authenticity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the text strips all of that away. It states that authentic functioning means you are not trying to imitate another state of consciousness. You are not trying to mentally convince yourself of something you don't actually believe. And you are not covering up what is currently present.
It completely invalidates the entire fake it till you make it industry.
Totally. Because fake it till you make it is just another slightly more polite form of kicking the door.
That's so true.
It's trying to slap a glossy, high-vibe coat of paint over a rotting foundation of fear. Authentic functioning is radical in its simplicity. You see what is present in your consciousness. You recognize it without judgment. And from that point of clear observation, you simply shift.
You see it, you recognize it, and from there you shift. No dramatics.
None at all.
The author labels this specific, grounded stance the clear, creative position. And I want to read the exact description of this position from the text because it feels like taking off a heavy coat. The author writes that this clear, creative position does not fight, it does not prove, it does not rush.
Let's just hold on those three verbs for a second. It does not fight. It does not prove. It does not rush.
It's staggering when you really apply that to modern life.
Yeah.
How much of our daily existence, how much of our entire global economy is built on the foundation of fighting, proving, and rushing?
Almost all of it. Our corporate structures, our social media hierarchies, our educational systems, they operate like giant grinding engines fueled by the need to fight competitors for scarce resources, the desperate urge to prove our value to strangers, and this perpetual panic-inducing rush to hit the next arbitrary milestone before time runs out.
Yes. And what this source material is suggesting is that all of that monumental societal effort, the burnout, the sleepless nights, the anxiety medication, the endless grinding hustle, is actually a symptom of a massive collective misalignment.
A misalignment with the source.
Right. It is the symptom of a culture that has completely forgotten the true primary cause. Think about it. If you intrinsically know that your internal state of consciousness is the primary cause of your reality, what is there to fight?
Nothing.
Who is there to prove anything to? Why on earth would you rush when you are the one holding the key?
This is where the profound, grounded calm of taking true responsibility anchors you. The text says that this clear creative position knows. It possesses a deep intrinsic cellular knowledge that the state of consciousness is the sole cause.
It's just a knowing.
And that knowledge yields the most beautiful promise in the entire text. Wherever the primary cause can be recognized, change becomes natural.
Natural, not forced, not wrestled into submission. Natural.
Like water flowing downhill, like
Yeah.
an apple falling from a tree. When you align the interstate, when you hit backspace on the typo in the code, the external consequences must follow suit.
They have to.
They don't have a choice. The shadow has to move when the object moves. It is a seamless, effortless mechanism.
It's just gravity. You don't have to scream at gravity to work. You just understand its rules and walk accordingly.
Exactly.
Okay, so this realization of the clear creative position, this incredibly peaceful, non-fighting, non-proving state, it sets up a highly provocative final thought that the author leaves us with.
This part is fascinating.
It's a preview of the true engine of creation, and it completely contradicts almost everything the modern self-help and manifestation industries have taught us about how to get what we want.
Yes, the text concludes by tearing down one final, massive misconception.
And what's that?
The author states that they will explore in further detail why emotional intensity does not actually create reality. Instead, it is the stability of the state of consciousness that is the true catalyst. And it ends with this absolute mic drop of a sentence, asserting that quiet certainty becomes a stronger creative force than even the most powerful emotion.
Quiet certainty. That phrase has been echoing in my head all week.
It's so potent.
Because everywhere you look, motivational seminars, TikTok gurus, sports movies, we are sold the idea that to create massive change, you need massive, explosive passion.
You need the hype.
You need hype. You need intense, vibrating emotional energy. You have to want it so badly you're crying. You have to scream your affirmations into the mirror.
It's a performance.
Yes. And this text just calmly walks in and says, no, calm, quiet stability is the ultimate power.
And if we synthesize this final revelation with everything else we've unpacked today, the logic is really bulletproof. Let's really look at high emotional intensity. What does it actually require?
A lot of energy.
Biologically, it requires a spike in adrenaline and cortisol. It requires a massive expenditure of energy. It often requires a defensive or aggressive posture.
So it's contracting.
Intense, grasping, desperate emotion is actually a very close cousin to control, and therefore it's a cousin to fear.
Oh, man. Because if you are intensely, passionately desperate for a manifestation to happen, your underlying state of consciousness, your actual code, is broadcasting. I do not have this. I am lacking this. I am incomplete without this.
Exactly. The sheer intensity of your desire is just highlighting the glaring absence of the thing.
You're trying to drown out the doubt.
You are generating massive emotional noise to cover up the fact that you don't actually believe you have the key. But true creative power, as the author outlines, aligns with the clear, present-oriented state of responsibility.
So what does that look like?
Think about the things in your life that you are absolutely, unequivocally certain of. You don't have to whip yourself into a frenzy of intense emotional passion to believe that the sun is going to rise tomorrow morning.
No, you just know it.
You don't scream with joy when you successfully remember your own name. You just possess a quiet certainty about it. There is no fight, no proof, no rush. It just is.
That distinction is everything. And I want to ask you, the listener, to do an honest audit of your life right now based on that.
A very necessary audit.
Where are you substituting exhausting emotional intensity for quiet certainty? Where are you hyping yourself up, burning out your adrenals with desperate passion, when all you really need is the calm stability of knowing you are the cause?
Stop revving the engine.
Where are you mistaking a racing heartbeat and a sweat-soaked brow for actual progress?
It's such a vital question. We so often confuse the loud roaring of a car engine in neutral with the actual forward movement of the vehicle.
That is so true.
The author is inviting us to turn the engine down to a quiet hum, to stop revving it, just to hear the noise, and to simply calmly shift the car into drive.
What a profound journey this text has taken us on. Let's just trace the map of the territory we've covered, because we started in a place that sounded like a heavy, miserable chore, and we ended up in a place of total, unburdened liberation.
We really covered a lot of ground.
We began by trading our exhausting, fear-based obsession with control for the empowering, source-based reality of responsibility. We learned that the urge to fix it implies a broken, threatening world, while the cause is within me reclaims our power.
And we looked at the biology of that.
Yes, we recognize the literal biological expansion that happens in our chest and nervous system when we stop blaming the blizzard and drop our defensive turtle shell posture.
We also navigated around that incredibly dangerous trap of self-blame, learning to drop that heady, past-oriented moral judgment in order to gain clear, present-oriented access to our own internal code.
We got access to the keyboard.
Exactly. We realized that true freedom isn't the impossible task of perfectly managing every external variable, but rather the profound relief of recognizing that circumstances are merely the trailing consequences of our movable consciousness.
We dropped the exhausting societal urge to constantly fight, prove, and rush, stepping instead into authentic functioning and the clear creative position.
The clear creative position, yes.
And finally, we traded the burnout of desperate emotional intensity for the ultimate unshakable power of quiet certainty.
Which leaves us with one final thought to mull over as we close out today.
Let's hear it.
If we take the logic of this source material seriously, if true freedom means recognizing that circumstances are merely consequences, and if our greatest creative power is found in quiet certainty rather than intense emotional hype, then how should we view the external world's constant, relentless demands for our attention?
Oh, wow.
Think about the 24-hour news cycle, the social media algorithms, the political outrage machine. The modern world is an engine designed to constantly demand your panic, your outrage, and your intense emotional reaction.
It feeds on it.
It is a system actively trying to convince you to be angry at the door.
Wow, yes. The algorithm literally profits off of us kicking the door until our feet bleed.
It does. So the question you have to sit with tomorrow morning when you open your phone or you walk into your office is this. What happens to your reality and your personal freedom the very moment you simply decide to stop kicking?
Just stop.
What happens when you look at the outrage machine, refuse the demand to contract into fear, take a deep, expansive breath, look down at your own hands, and quietly turn the key?
What a place to leave it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. I hope this conversation has lifted that heavy backpack off your shoulders today and replaced it with something far more useful. Stay curious, remember that you never have to fight the door, and carry that inner compass with you wherever you go. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, please consider subscribing to the channel. For more in-depth and advanced content, you're welcome to join us on Patreon. We'll be back next week with the continuation of this topic.